Hey YouTubers, it's another day and another BMW fault to chase down. This time the parking sensors stopped working. They were being a bit funny and intermittent to start with, but we did do the diagnostics and we brought up a fault code between the the heater controller, where the park sensor switch is controlled, and the parking unit itself. So we've done a bit of digging and we've jumped into the boot and I'll show you what we found. Okay, so first up you have to take this trim piece out, and to do that there's a couple of small clips I'll show you inside down the bottom there. You pull off these two panels and there's a couple of screws, and I just took this center panel out to make it easier, and then that should pop off. It's just got a couple of holders. I'll show you in the boot. So that was this piece here, and so that's the first piece to come off. Took out the boot trim, which is that liner there, and also took out the first aid kit, which is just on the right hand side of the boot. And then to get this right hand boot trim out, there's a few things. There's a couple of little clips in the bottom of the footwell there that had to come out that were catching for the first aid kit. Took out the light panel here, took off at the front the luggage tab, and also this tab which is around the seat lock. Took the seat out, left the light in, and then if you just pull it out from the bottom just carefully around the seat trim there, you can get that forward and you can get enough room to work. So I'm just leaving that there. I might just pull this light off while we're here because we do want to get a bit more room. I'll just get that light clip off just off camera. Oh, maybe I'll keep the light for a bit of light. No, can't get that out. Okay, we'll take that off in a second. Get that boot trim out the way, and here is the parking sensor module. We're just going to get in there and have a look. Okay, and what we found, just like most other videos online, we found that we've got a little spoon pull in the bottom of this unit here. Now, the parking sensor module isn't wet, but it is sitting in this water, so we'll pull this out and just have a look inside that module, see if it's wet inside, and let it dry out, and then we'll also have a look on this left hand side and see if there's water in that side. Okay, so we've just whipped out the left hand side, and as you can see down there, totally dry. There's the grommet at the bottom, and no reason to be concerned about that side, which is annoying because the side that's full of water is a lot harder to get out because we've got the main battery cable over the top here. That's clipped in a couple of places. We'll just have a look at that. And then we've got the main body harness, mostly to the parking computer by the look of it, but also out into the bumper to the parking sensors. And let's have a dig and see what we can find. Okay, so this clip here just lifts off. That's onto the air outlet for the car, so that's not too bad. This one here for the battery cable I just pulled out, and that gave me a lot of room then just to get this whole module holder out. I've pulled the module out, and annoyingly it is wet and there is water at the bottom of that module holder. So we're just going to have a bit of a dig around in that module and see if we can work out where this water's coming in, because what's interesting is it's wet on the bottom and it's come up in the inside. So it's either dripped down the wires or dripped into that cavity and filled that full of that water. Really annoying. Okay, let's we'll take the module apart, see if we can see any corrosion on it, let it dry out, and then we'll work out where this water's coming in. Okay, so these quick fit connectors, I think the answer's there already. These connectors, they lift off by this, so they've got a little clip on the top. You press the clip in, push the lever over, and they pop out. All three pop out, but we've just seen on there the cause of our problem. These two don't look too bad, they're pretty dry. That one will be the power one. And on the module itself, so there's that connector really corroded, so might be getting a new module or cleaning that up. But just at the bottom of the module here also, you unclip these little clips and this panel drops down, and we can see there it's been quite full of water. So it was working a week ago, which is really a bit surprising. We'll get that open, clean that up, and still we need to find out where this water is coming in from into the car. So that's the next bit we'll be testing. Okay, so we got the module out completely, and I think you can see there Little bit of corrosion on the bottom edge. Probably would clean up. That micro shouldn't have been left at the bottom there. Thank you for that, Mr. Bosch hardware designer. And maybe some holes in the bottom of the module holder to let the water out. Really, this is BMW's fault, because that module is designed to be mounted that way up and be waterproof from the top, but in their wisdom they mounted it that way up. And the biggest problem we've found, don't know if you can see that on the video there, is that one of those pins, I'm not sure the pin number, and we might be able to work out what that pin was doing. Maybe no, it definitely was doing something. Yep, it was tracking off to that resistor block there. So that pin has just come off completely. So we might replace this header, and we might have to repair the connector in the car. That's one option, but the header pin is in there. I don't know if you can see that. The other option is that we just clean this up and get another module. So we'll look at the two different options. Nicely, there's quite a bit of spare wire there to work with, and I can get hold of these pin termination tools, and I could rebuild that header, but it's a lot of faff. And the good news is we can put the car probably back together and put that trim and leave this just hanging around in here to test. But first of all, we still need to find out why this water came in. Okay, so we've gone a bit deeper. We were going to take these shelves off, but actually found out you don't need those to take off this side lining. So this is the airbag side lining. There's a little clip behind the airbag label. Sorry, a little screw behind the airbag label, and then a couple of pin clips, and then this just reaches off from the top. So you pull it down and it's tucked in under the rear door and the boot seal, and those clips go in there. And this side, we're putting water in through the sunroof, and surprisingly this side is staying totally dry, which is where we know we've got a problem with the water. But on the left hand side we've got water running in quite a lot from above the headlining. So what was interesting is this side panel had been off because this pin clip was missing, and we have noticed a few screws that have been undone over time. So we're just going to drop the headlining a bit and see. So we're taking these plugs out of the headlining, and we're just going to drop the headlining a bit and see if we can see the sunroof tube and what's going on there, because definitely that water's leaking, and maybe, depending on the angle of the car, it's running across and down this side and filling up the parking module. But we'll keep digging. Okay, so we've got water running out of the drain from the sunroof now, and bizarrely not running down the headlining, which it was doing before. So maybe it's the way we're filling it into the headlining, but it's now running out of both sides and successfully down the car and not into the car at all. I'm just going to close the boot so, there we go. There we go, having it running down through the headlining. So it's running into both, and it's running out of the front door handle too. So we're going to be dropping the headlining and seeing what's happening, because it's running out of there. Okay, so we're going to take the sunroof out and see if we can see where this water's, the headlining out, see if we can see where this water's leaking. So we've taken off the sun visors, which is 2 screws on the outside and 1 clip and screw on the inside. The A-pillars are loose, 2 screws under the airbag covers. The grab handles, 4 of them, there's 2 little clips on the top. You just put a pick in, pull them down, take those screws out, all T20s. And then the headlining seal around the sunroof, which is this one, which is a little tricky. So that's a steel seal and also going around the headlining. So it'll be a bit of fun getting that back in. We'll see how we go. And just got the 2 lights connected. And other than that, I think there's a clip just here at the front. But we're going to start at the back and see if we can drop it down. And we're going to see if we can keep the B pillars in place, because that's a lot of work taking those out. Okay, let's see how we go in a moment. Okay, so some success. These are the 2 fixings in the rear. I showed you before, taking out the C pillar trims there, taking out the B post, so we took out the front kick strips. Might take the rear ones out to get it back together. The lower B trim and the upper B trim, which is held on with a couple of little studs in these holes here, just little plastic pull clips. So you have to do the lower first. We'll get to clean this seatbelt bar while we're here, to make the seatbelts run a bit better. Got all those out. Then at the front, we took out the as mentioned, the sun visors, and the centre mirror just came down. The windscreen was changed recently, and that was just sticking on the headlining, so it's stuck in a couple of places. But nevertheless, we got the headlining out, and as soon as we get it out, we see there's water on the headlining. And in the back here, what we've noticed is at that fixing back there at the rear of the sunroof, it's just dripping down where the tube's pushed on the sunroof. So I think we got to the root cause. We'll be pulling those out. Okay, there's a bit of Velcro there as well, holding something. Don't really think that's clipped to anything. It's interesting they didn't bother with that. The wiring to the sunroof, it's all embedded on this front, on the light. Sorry, on the middle light. And at the front there's a main harness into the front assembly. We might undo all that and get the headlining out completely, or we might try and work around it. But you can see the side airbags up there on the other side, and definitely 1 or 2 leaks on these tubes. So next step, we're going to fill these this water tray up again and see if we can see where those leaks are really coming from before we fix the tubes. We're just going to pour in through this at the top tube, and apparently we've seen water running already. Yeah, we must have just spilled it here because it's not dripping now. So that looks pretty good. I think we'll go back to the hose. It might have been the angle we had it at. Okay, so we've pulled the center module out. I'll just show you the connectors on there. So this is a sunroof car, so there's quite a few. So we've got 2 with clips on the left, a main power one, another with a clip on the right, and then really tricky is this microphone connector on this car, on this spec. So I'll just show you those 5 connectors, and that gets the whole of that module out, which is super heavy. So that had to be unclipped from the sunroof at the front to start with. So we unclipped the sunroof, unclipped it at the front, folded it down, and then got these 5 connectors out. And sorry about the daylight and sunlight. These little clips here, they pull down to get the connectors out. And then the microphone was really tricky. That's actually, well, I thought it was lift up. Yeah, lift up this little tab, and that seems to force that little button down and allows you to pull that out. So it's a 3-wire mic, only 2 wires in this car. Not sure why. Anyway, with that out of the way, then we can see the front drain tubes. Now we're a bit concerned that those are blocked down under the car, so we're going to go and have a look at that in a moment. But the main point here is on the sunroof, they're just really loose. So you might just see that's a really just general loose fit. So we're going to drop those down, let them dry out. You can see a bit of other water leaking out the sunroof like this here. So I'm not sure where this is tracking down from. We did see some come out of this. This is the cavity for the front air strip, and I've seen a little bit of water out of here, but not too significant. But most of the water out of this tube connector here, and the same at the back of the sunroof. So we're just going to silicone those on, just because no leak is a good leak, and then I think we'll be in a bit better condition. Sunroof motor and manual key there, just if you ever have a problem with that. Front mirror and headlining. We might be running a wire for the dash cam at some point, tucked up under this headlining, down the A-pillar. That's a job for another day. This little clip here is clipped into the headlining, so I might try and get that on as we put the headlining up, and that one there was unclipped from the mirror at some point. And the same on this side. You can just see there's water just under that tube there, or in that connector, and that's the same thing. If I just pull on that, that should be, this one's a bit tighter. It does sound like there is some kind of adhesive there, but you can see it's pretty loose. It's not exactly what you'd call on tight. So we'll get and have a look at that and see if we can seal those up. If I pull this off, it probably will pour out again. No, okay. Oh, drip on the camera from there. So yeah, a few little leaks everywhere. Annoying. Okay, so these sunroof drains, you can see they're a little bit muddy, and we tried blowing on them just by mouth, and one was clear and one was blocked. So we did think that was definitely quite a good chance of the root cause of the problem. These are the front sunroof tubes. We knew they go down the A post, but could not work out where they went to. So following a couple of other YouTubes, we removed the wheel arch liner. I'll show you the fixings for that in a moment. Now on this side, on the right hand side of the car, we've got a lot of conduits for power and things. We did notice this was blocked as well, which is the drain from the scuttle panel. And while we were there, we went down and had a look. And you have to remove these two fixings here and drop this flap down. So this is the flap, and you should be able to see under there, that is the sunroof drain. So just sitting under there, here. Oops, not there. There. Coming out from the inside the car. And that is was blocked and very crispy and dirty. And we tried pushing a tube down the inside of each of them with little success. But what we did find, after we got one free, we used the compressor, blew down from the top, and really degunked those. So these are the wheel arch linings. So just when you're taking these out from the under the car, you've got these 3 pin holes. You push the steel pin down through the middle and pull these clips out. You've got a M10 plastic fixing there and here, and I think this one's an M8, and these ones are M8s all around. You can see they've been really munged up by somebody before. This is the one on the other side. Just a quick look at this. We're going to wash these, put them back on in a second. So the same on this side. Got the steering wheel turned, got the car jacked up. You might be able to see a bit better on this side, so without the cables. So here's the vent from the windscreen saddle. The little metal pins from these clips drop down inside here. We did manage to find those. This is the side skirt moulding. Just give that a flick to see if it's there. And again on this side, there is the sunroof vent. So that's all cleaned up. We're happy with that now. We're just going to get this all washed down, and then we'll get back inside, silicone up those tubes, and put all the headlining back. Small job. Okay, so that's all washed up now. These are the pins. We just lost the centers out of a couple, so we just put the 2 top ones in for now. So you push the little plastic in, push the pin in the middle, put these 2 push sill holders back in, put in these that M10 there, and also these M8s, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then those 2 M10s under there. And that's the wheel arch liner back in, and just made sure it's clipped in under the wheel arch there itself. That's all back together, and we can lower that back down onto the blocks so we can get the jack out. Just straighten the wheel. Do you want to lower that back down?
Yep. Just yeah, everything looks to be out from under the car.
Okay, and then we'll get the headlining back in. Okay, sorry if it's sideways, but you should just be able to see the silicone there on the tube. Just siliconed up. I'm not going to touch that, it's just setting. These tubes clip off really helpfully off these 2 holders here. You might be able to get that from the back. There you go. So you can see up there the silicone, and we're really hoping that that stops the water running down the headlining and down into the rear of the car there. Okay, so we've got all of the A-pillars. Sorry about the light, it's terrible, isn't it? A-pillars, put the sun visor all back together. Got the centre light to do yet, all this side. And then one thing we just did pretty clever is this bar here is for the seatbelt. And as you can see on the driver's side, a little bit rusty. And you can just flip that bar over, so it's brand new on the back, and you get a much smoother run. Also put these clips back in on the B post, and there on that side you can see just how rusty that bar is and what a mess it is, and how much better that seatbelt now runs on that nice clean galvanized bar. Just to note the B post going back in, so 3 clips at the top, 2 clips at the bottom, and just tucks over the carpet in the corners there. We'll just get those back in. So now we're back on the ECU after the last video. So you would have seen in that video that there was a lot of corrosion around this header connector, and the ECU had stopped working because it was in the water, which we've still got in the boot. This is the ECU part number on this car. It's a 8-channel system. So you can see the part number there, hopefully, of this one. I could have got a new ECU or a second-hand ECU for about $100, but instead I decided to give this a bit of a repair. After a lot of cleaning up, and I'll put some pictures in after this showing some of the work in more detail, I found out this pin on the voltage regulator had completely corroded away. That's the second pin in. The second pin from the end was also pretty corroded. Looking at the data sheet for that, I might put a link in for that voltage regulator. This one pin is the voltage input and the other pin is the voltage output. And other than that, there's a lot of ground pins and a couple of comms pins. So I've linked that with a little jumper wire from that second pin just up to the top of these caps, which you might just be able to see there's a plus symbol on that heavy track there. That's the main power track into those caps, and those are the main power support caps just for voltage smoothing and voltage supply for the parking sensors. And then at the top of the board up here there was a lot of corrosion, cleaned all that up, but the hardest bit was this header. And the header, you might have seen in the video, the one pin had corroded away completely. So a lot of cleaning up with flux cleaner on those parts. Took the header off completely by drilling out the support pins and desoldering it. And then I removed each of the pins from the header manually by heating them up and pulling them out, and then pushed them back in the right locations. So there's only 4 pins used on that header, 2 for the can, 1 for the ground and 1 for the power. So I only needed 4, but I did put 10 of the pins back in and threw 2 away. And that's all back together now, and we just tested that before, and that is all working. So pretty chuffed about that. And then we'll now get on with the water. So you saw all the headlining repair and the roof repair that we did. We've just washed the car and found that yet again we've got water in the boot, and this time we noticed it's tracking down, and you can just see it here, the witness mark. It's just been tracking down from inside the light cluster. So we're just about to whip the light clusters off, have a look at those. And again, what's really silly on this car is when those side covers are in, you cannot tell that this boot floor is full of water. So you could drill a hole in one of these grommets or remove one of these grommets. I think that one is rubber, so it will leak out slowly. Might be worth putting a hole in there to stop the rust. Same on this side, except these two are both metal. So you can see there, those metal filling grommets. So again, just no way out for that water, which is just insane. Known fault, no service fix. And if any of your electronics are in the bottom there, you're just going to end up needing a new ECU. So we'll talk about that when we put it back together, but that's the ECU position of the part pilot. I believe on this side, based on this comms cable we've got here, this is where the power amp goes on a different spec car. Not sure whether it goes on those brackets there on the side, but it's not in this car. It's not something we have to worry about. Okay, so I think we're slowly getting there. Put this ECU back together and just keep it out of that water for the moment. Might just put it on this boot floor, down under the battery. Just put in that battery location for now. Might be a good permanent location later. And then we're just going to whip these tail lights off and look for these last leaks. Okay, so the tail light is held on with these 3 M8 little screws, and they go just onto those studs there. This is the seal we're looking at, but just worth showing you. We just whipped this tail light off. Clearly not been off for, what, years? So we're going to clean all this mud up, get all that nice and clean and fresh, and then we'll work out where we're going to seal this light and where it's leaking from. See if we can fix that up. So this is looking inside the right hand tail light. So here's all the mud. We're going to clean all this up and get this cleaned up. I'll show the car in a minute. You have to take the light holder out, which is pressing this down and twisting to the side to get the bulbs out. So we'll have a look at those in a minute and clean those up. And then the water leak, as far as we can see, is just been running down this seal and running out of the bottom here. So we're going to have a good look at that and try and understand how the water's getting from the body down inside the body. But nevertheless, we've given the car a bit of a pressure wash, and now there's a lot less chance without that mud sitting there that that's going to run down into the tail lights. So we'll give that all a bit of a clean and polish up as well. Just pressure washed all down in there. So as you can see, not been cleaned for years. Okay, a little controversial here. So I've put a bit of silicone all around the seal location on the light, and then I've actually flipped the seals. So this is the seal from the opposite light, and the reason I've done that is so that the old rib hole there won't get used anymore and we'll be pushing from the other side. So I'm also going to put silicone around this side just now and silicone the lights on. Now that is a bit controversial, but really the lights don't need to come off unless you have crash damage or you want to get behind and clean them because they're dirty again. So I don't see I'll be doing that for a few years. So let's see how we go. Okay, so there's the silicone seal, and the plan is that it'll stop any water getting in. If it does get in, it's not going to get out. That is one thing. I did consider cutting a slot at the bottom here to let any water that runs into the tail light run out, but we'll see how we go. Okay, so they've pulled in. The seal is pretty hopeless. It's mostly not used. You might just see the silicone down the sides there where I put it in against those ribs. We've even got things like these ribs here, which is just going to cause it to leak more. So I'm pretty happy with that silicone. We'll see how we go. And now we'll just whip the bulb holder back in. So these are a bit tricky. So they go in, you've got to put in the reverse bulb first, and then there is a little hook just down the bottom there that goes into that slot. Mine on the one side is already broken. So actually that's the cable holder. The slot's down the bottom there. And there we go, it just sits just like that. Sorry, not a very good angle. And clip the lights back in. That must have been the holder for the emergency. By the way, that green is the emergency fuel flap release. If you've got a flat battery, you can reach in and pull on that. Okay, anything else? I think that's all good. And we'll just leave that to dry now and then give it a wash tomorrow and see if this water is still not coming in. And then get the rest of the boot trim back together. So, thanks for watching so far, and we'll see if we finish that off with the boot trim and wrap up the video. Okay, so just wrapping up this story, one of the last things I'm doing, there is a rubber plug here in the corner. I'm just going to put that grommet back in, but I'm drilling a vent hole or a drain hole on both sides, just in case we get the water back in, just to give the chance for that water to run out. Same on this side. I'm just going to clean that up and paint it, and that's just sort of the last chance brigade, just to make sure that if these lights leak or if the sunroof leaks or anything else leaks in the back here, that we get a good chance of that actually staying dry in there and not soaking the ECU. So I was going to mount this ECU in a different location, but I think I'm just going to drop it in there and then just inspect in there every now and then just to see there's no water, which I can do, especially on that side through these two slots at the bottom of the first aid kit. So hopefully I can just see over the edge of there, stick a stick down, have a look and see if that's wet at the bottom of that hole. Okay, so let's get that back together, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.